Okay, so this is our delivery lecture now. And on the delivery lecture, I'm going to be looking for a few things from you. One, I'm hoping that you'll use vocal variety in your speeches, that you're very, very intentional and personal about your eye contact, and that also you're very, very intentional about your movement. And even on these skeletal speeches that we'll be delivering on Wednesday, I'll talk about on the introduction that I expect you to have a little bit of movement in it. Okay? So delivery is very, very important on the speech.
Along with body movement and eye movement?
That's correct. So you're going to have eye contact is the big thing on that. Body movement and then vocal variety. All right. So with vocal variety, I can't overstate how important it is in a speech. If we all talked like this, we go crazy pretty soon. You drop my course. Right? We do not talk that way. So when you come up here to deliver your speeches, make sure that you don't stop being musical. When you're out there in the hallway, if I walk by you, you're like, what? She did what? I can't move. You're doing that kind of stuff. No. Yeah, right. That's the kind of vocal variety that you use when you're out there in the hallway. Up here in the speech, of course, you don't have to chirp and whistle and do those kinds of things, but I do want you to be intentional about using vocal variety. So embrace the music of language. All right, so we're going to use some musical terms here. One that we're going to talk about is dynamics. In music, dynamics has to do with the loudness. So if in one of your speeches you're talking about a story in a time that you had a car accident, you could say something like this. Yeah, then we turned around the corner and then bam, we got hit. Or it could be, well, then we went around the corner and all of a sudden, bam, we got hit. Embrace those louds and softs. Be intentional from time to time. And just talk a little softer. And then I couldn't believe what she did next. Embrace those louds and softness of it, okay? Embrace the music of language. Use dynamics. Another thing that you want to use is pitch. It's kind of what I talked about earlier. You're in the hallway, you're like, what? You gotta be kidding me! Use that pitch in the course of your speech. Don't just talk at the same pitch the whole time. Every once in a while, get a little lower. Talk a little higher. Make sure that you use some pitch, that musical element in your speeches as well. Also the timbre, the color of your voice. Every once in a while, adjust that too. So if you're telling a story and there's another voice that's in it, a little child comes up to you and says, Daddy, can we go to the park? Change the color of your voice. Adopt that. If you're talking about your mom, she's like, you better clean your room. That's the way your mom talks. Sort of adjust it here. Let us live those stories and characters with you in your presentations. Tempo. This is another huge thing in your speech. Don't just talk at that same rhythm the whole time. Make sure that you adjust it. There are times when you'd be talking about, we weren't really sure what would happen at Christmas. Little pause. It builds suspense. Mom had just lost her job. We had hopes that we would still receive that bicycle. We woke up early in the morning to the alarm and rushed down the stairs. We went so quickly down to the tree. We looked underneath, and what did we see? That big red bike. All kinds of variety here. You start off with just a little bit slower, and then pretty soon you're getting a little bit faster. The tempo variations will help people to live with you a little bit longer. It's another musical element that you want to add to your speeches. And then that's the other big thing. Silence is a powerful tool.
In music, too.
Sure is. Just stop. If you have some like pathetic appeal, a pathos appeal, emotional appeal, we'll talk about that later in your speech. You finish up your story and mom ends up dying. It's a good time to pause and let that soak in. If creates a much more somber and serious environment. And the other thing that we talked about earlier is embrace the silence when you're totally lost. So if you don't know where you're at, just stop, look on your little piece of paper, find yourself, and then begin speaking. A lot of times people are fooled, and they think, what an excellent dramatic pause. You're like, oh, thanks a lot. I was actually completely lost. All right? So embrace those silences in your speeches. Vocal variety is going to be very, very important for you on your presentations. It's so important that we're actually going to do a little bit of an exercise on it. Okay? So what I want to happen right now is, if everybody can take at least one of these and pass it around to your classmates. What we're going to do is we're going to watch several videos that show vocal variety in action. And what you can do is either with a pen or a paper, you can make notes on these little pieces of paper and talk about where pitch changes, where tempo changes, where there's silences, those kinds of things. And then afterwards, as a class, we're actually going to have you stand up and deliver these dialogues with vocal variety. Okay? And some of the things that we learn here are going to be extreme vocal variety that will help you in your speeches. Okay, we're continuing on with our delivery lecture, and now we're going to focus on the importance of eye contact in a presentation. In future speeches, and even on your storytelling speeches, skeletal speeches, etc., there's going to be tons of points available for you in eye contact, because I believe it is that important for your success as a speaker. So why exactly do I push eye contact so much in this class? Well, usually by this point in time, my face-to-face classes have already done an exercise where they speak to one another. And on the first round, their partners ignore them. And this is usually a very frustrating experience for the person who is speaking to their partner. Eye contact creates a genuine connection between yourself and the person or people that you are speaking to. So much so that if we remove eye contact in a speaking situation, it usually makes people feel ignored, and it makes them feel as if they're not valued. So it's important to maintain that connection, because it reestablishes a true connection between you and your audience. The other thing is, it can be very reassuring for you as a speaker if you have eye contact. And the reason why is, usually the audience that you're speaking to is full of people who are nice. They're actually rooting for you to do well. And when you're up here with all of your nervousness, and you give genuine eye contact to somebody, say Fred out in your audience, and he's giving you eye contact and smiling at you, it makes you feel like, hey, maybe I'm doing a pretty good job here. It's very reassuring for you to look around the room and understand that these people are on your side. They're rooting for you. When you make that eye contact, you see them not as a public, but instead as real human beings who care about your success as a speaker. It's another reason why you want to maintain eye contact. Another important part of eye contact is it actually helps your audience to remain attentive. If you're giving eye contact and treating them like real people, usually people will reciprocate by giving you their attention back. So it helps your audience to maintain interest. If you don't treat them like as if they're a brick wall, chances are they will give you their attention back. Another important reason to have eye contact in your presentations is so that it will convey confidence and power. Even if you're up here and internally you're not very confident and you're shaking and fearful, if you can maintain eye contact, it will project confidence. And this is important in your speeches. And the reason why is because when you're up here giving informative speeches or persuasive speeches, the audience wants to know that you're somebody they can trust. And if you don't project confidence and you have your eyes down, yeah, I've done a bunch of research and I've learned a few things, and I don't know. If that's how you are, with eyes down, not projecting confidence, chances are your audience is going to have their guard up and be like, I'm not sure if I can trust this person. I'm not sure if they've really done their work. So it projects confidence and power. So eye contact is something that you must have in your speeches. So we just talked about why you need eye contact. Next, we need to talk about how you can develop skills in having good eye contact. One thing that I would suggest is when you're practicing your speeches that you're going to deliver for a public, if you have stuffed animals at home, put them around your room. And then speak to your stuffed animals as if they are your audience. So let's imagine that it's Winnie the Pooh over here. You'll deliver the initial part of your speech to Winnie the Pooh, making genuine eye contact with them. And then you'll move over here to Mickey Mouse, making genuine eye contact with Mickey Mouse. And then you'll move over here to Woody from Toy Story and give a little speech to him. And then you'll come over here to Minnie Mouse and give her your genuine eye contact. Practice eye contact with your stuffed animals in your room. Now, I know that some of you are not willing to either admit that you have stuffed animals or you're a person who doesn't. So let's say you're some guy that doesn't want to admit you have stuffed animals. Instead, why don't you put your beer bottles up around your room? Then you can start your speech off by speaking to your Budweiser. Well, Mr. Budweiser, the first fact that I learned was, and you deliver that to your Budweiser. And then you'd move over here to your Heineken and speak to your Heineken for a while. And then move over here to your Corona and speak to your Corona for a while. Practice genuine eye contact with objects in your room. And if you can, get somebody, a real life human being, 2 or 3 people, cousins, brothers, uncles, somebody to come and watch your speech before you're actually going to deliver it to be graded. And try to make genuine eye contact with them. Eye contact is not an opportunity to engage in a staring contest. It's not about intimidation. It should be genuine. Understand who the person is you're speaking to and speak to them for 6 to 10 seconds. And then share that eye contact with somebody else in your public. Speak to them for 6 to 10 seconds. And once you're finished with them, go to the next person. You'll be graded on sharing your eye contact, having your eye contact be conversational, and having your eye contact be sustained. Don't allow your eye contact to become a sprinkler technique, where you just do this. And you never really truly connect with somebody and move on. Make sure that you have it around your public and share it with many, many people. Practice that. Okay, so that's the how of how you can develop some good eye contact. The next delivery function that you'll be graded on is movement. We want your movement to also be present in the speeches. And one reason why is when we deliver a speech, if we only stay in one place, we have something that's known as the zone of interaction, which means we tend to speak to the people who are in this cone. So if I were to deliver my lecture from only here in the class, chances are I would ignore the people who are over here outside of the cone. And if I deliver my lecture from the middle of the class, chances are I'm going to ignore the people that are in the front row to my left and to my right. And if I deliver my entire lecture from over here, chances are I'm going to ignore the first 3 chairs over here and the second chair in the second row there. The zone of interaction. By changing our place in movement, we actually change the zone or the cone of interaction. Now we can include the whole audience. So it makes it much more likely that those portions of the audience are going to feel included and will make good eye contact with them too. Also, we use our movement to signpost. Whenever we move in a portion of our speech, it lets folks know, oh, we must be moving on to something new. And actually, we'll be using something called the speaker's triangle in our next speeches and on the body speeches for skeletons. When you're done with a main point, you would simply say, now that I've talked to you about main point 1, I will next talk to you about main point 2. Not only will you verbally transition between those points, but you will also physically transition. It lets people know you're moving forward. Now that I've talked to you about main point 2, I'm going to talk to you about main point 3. And this is important that you're signposting, because no matter how interesting your speeches or your lectures are, your audience wants to know that they're getting someplace, that they're moving forward. Because no matter how good you are, the favorite part of most lectures and speeches for people is the end. And we want to know that you're moving towards it. So signposting lets people know that you are very intentionally making progress in your speech. So when you change structural elements, small movements between small parts, like between an open with impact and a thesis, you would make small movements. Between main points, you would make large movements. Use your movement to signpost and let your audience know you're moving forward. Another reason why you use movement in your speeches, most of you are going to get that boost of adrenaline when you deliver your speeches. And that adrenaline can be very, very good. However, it also can cause the shakes. Your knees to shake, your hands to shake, etc. One way to burn off that adrenaline is by using your large muscles and moving. It causes some of that adrenaline to go to use instantly and helps you to feel a little more confident in your space as well. And also, it projects confidence to your people. Not only do you feel that way, when you take control of your space, it conveys confidence and power. So we've talked about why you want movement. Next, you need to know how can you develop that. Well, the big thing is, same with the stuffed animals and the beer bottles that you're going to have around your room, make sure that you practice your movement. So when you talk to Winnie the Pooh, maybe come over here and talk with Winnie for a little while. And make some small movements over here when you talk to Mickey Mouse. And make some other movements when you come over here to talk to Woody. Another small movement when you talk to Minnie. Use that to actually practice the importance of movement in your speeches. All right, and this concludes our movement lecture, our delivery lecture on vocal variety, eyes, and movement.